Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. How are you, sisters?
Fine.
How was your weekend?
Nice.
How did you spend it?
Studying.
Good? Well, we are going to start our class today, inshallah. And all what we are going to take is a second application of Romanticism. Already we discussed one of the applications, which is the solitary reaper. Today, two of our sisters are going to explain the daffodils, hoping that they are going to make a good presentation to show you how we can apply the romantic principles on literary works. This poem is going to be included in the midterm as well, right? In other words, right, this is going to be the last work to be included in the midterm. After that, it's not going to be included. If you feel that you don't understand, please ask the presenters. If they couldn't answer you, I will, right? So most probably they are going to do a very good presentation, as I expect. But in any case, that you feel that you would like to add, right, or you would like to ask, don't hesitate. Add your participation, as well as ask any question, in order to make sure that you understand this application well. So we are going to give the stage for our two sisters. Please start by identifying yourself, presenting yourself, then start your presentation.
Today our presentation is about daffodils, a look of scene that may have... Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone, my name is Hayin Abdel Nabi.
Aya Hijazi.
Today our presentation is about daffodils, a look of scene that may have inspired William to write this poem, Daffodils.
What do you think the title means or refer to? Hello?
It refers to a scene of beautiful daffodil flowers.
Maybe.
Anyone else?
Like in general, to the beauty of nature.
Good.
Anyone else?
The title referred to rebirth, new beginnings, happy, affection, beauty and peace, radiance. Daffodils is a simple word that reminds us about the arrival of spring season.
Why the poet chose this name for the poem? Well, the poet describes happiness that he received in a field full of flowers, and why they make him feel happy. Hence, this title, Daffodils.
How daffodils are different from other flowers, and what do you feel when you look at this picture? Who can answer? Lama?
Well, they have brighter colors. They are yellow, so you can see them from afar, and they're very pretty, so they make you feel relaxed and happy.
Okay, you are right. تفضلي.
It's very beautiful. It's made me very relaxed and comfortable.
You are right.
About the poet, William Wordsworth, he was born in 1770 and died in 1850. He is a great romantic poet. He wrote this poem in 1804 and it was published in 1815. Well, the idea of this poem came to William while he walked near a lake in England with his sister Dorothy. This poem was considered one of the most revolutionary of all of his poems, since they encouraged most ideas that were controversial at the time it was published. And most of William's poems were about a moment of everyday life, because he believed in freedom, equality, and brotherhood.
Now we want to talk about the summary. There was a person who was walking around and felt lonely. Suddenly he saw a crowd of daffodils, which ate a lot. Then the daffodils was stretched along a bay. He saw the daffodils were danced by by the breeze. The breeze. Then he saw the waves also dance, but he notes that the daffodils danced more because it is happier than the waves.
I wander lowly as a cloud that floats on high or valleys and hills. Well, the speaker describes himself through nature and liken himself to a lowly cloud floating atop of valleys and hills, creating a landscape filled with nothing but nature. Here, the wandering shows the romantic ideal of escapism. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Well, he described daffodils as gold, while it usually seems to us just yellow. He also describes a host of daffodils. Host, this is a word used to describe angel. So it brings daffodils to an angelic feeling. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Well, the most daffodils is described as fluttering and dancing. Well, Wordsworth lived in a part of England called a Lake of District. It seems possible that he is wandering through a field of daffodils and describes what he sees. Stanza 2.
We forget that about stanza 1. The poet talking about himself and describe himself how he is alone and walking around. In the second stanza, we notice that he stopped talking about himself and start describing what he's seeing around himself.
Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkled on the Milky Way. Well, the abundance of daffodils is like in the star in that they are continuous. Each daffodil is gleaming like a star. With this, the speaker comes back to the supernatural feeling of an aspect of nature.
Where is this?
That he said twinkled on the stars and the Milky Way.
The stretched and never-ending line along the margin of a bay.
The never-ending line is an example of hyperbole.
10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance.
It refers to daffodils as dancing a sprightly dance. Sprites are also a supernatural, which again brings these daffodils to a state above the natural world.
Okay, no?
Can I comment on, can I have a comment on the last two lines? So these lines show the harmony of nature and the unity of the elements of nature.
Good. Excellent point.
Okay, thank you. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee.
The waves that sparkle make yet another reference to the stars.
I guessed and guessed, but little thought what will the show to me had brought.
Those two lines in particular shows one characteristic of Romanticism, awe of nature. The speaker makes reference to the fact this sight is something worth appreciating which the speaker may not have realized in the moment. The word wealth bringing money into the picture and seems that contrast between the natural world and the supernatural feeling.
For oft, when on my cough I lie, in vacant or in a pensive mood. Pensive.
Well, to be in both a vacant and a pensive mood is somewhat a contradiction for the former. Here, to be empty of thoughts, while later he wants you to be filled with a serious thoughts.
They flash open that inward eye, which is the place of solitude.
The inward eye refers to somewhat of a spiritual vision that the speaker may seems to have when these vacant, pensive moods.
Now we want to talk about something in this poem. First of all, what this word refers to. The first word is inward eye. Here it's his. He wants to talk about experience, how he is filled the imagination. Yeah. Second, he talking about sprightly. He took. Oh, okay. He convey for us that the daffodils are alive and weightless. Then we notice that the repetition of words of the words for seeing, for example, gaze and so. He told us about the importance of vision and the appreciation of nature.
Shifts. Well, the tone is shifted from sad in the first two lines to more joyful and happy in the rest of all poems. Second, the place is shifts from the field of daffodils in the first three stanza to the home of poet on their couch. There are a lot. Couch. There are a lot of commas, semicolon, dashes that abuses.
What is romantic about the poem? Analyze it according to what we explained inside the class. Where are the principles of romanticism? I'm not talking about the semicolon and the colon and the comma, right?
I will.
And repetition. Explain what is romantic about it.
Yeah.
Okay, now we want to talk about the theme in this poem. First of all, we want to talk about solitude. Even though you are by yourself, feeling lonely or missing your friend, use your imagination to find the new friend in a world around you, such as nature's beauty, uplift the human spirit. The second theme is man and nature. Every person experience lonely in
This is analysis. Aristotelian or romantic? Romantics never talk about the theme.
Yeah.
The theme is an Aristotelian analysis. Right? But we are not analyzing it according to Aristotle. What is the use of bringing the theme here? You understand what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. The title, I Wander Lonely as a Cloud, is somewhat misleading. It leads you to think that you will read a poem about loneliness, but once when you read it, you find that the overall tone is all about the overall tone of it is tone is all about tone.
And the tones, we are talking about the tones.
Finally, if you understand this poem, you should answer this question: why the poet compared himself to the cloud, and why did the poet compare the line of daffodils with the stars in Milky Way? What did the poet feel when he was looking at daffodils? You can answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the first question is because the clouds usually maybe are lonely because they're up very high away from people. So that compares solitude to romanticism, like you just said, that this poem refers solitude. That is another romantic characteristic.
Good.
Thanks. Does anyone want to answer?
I think he used cloud in particular because clouds are natural.
Yes, you are right. Lama.
Also, maybe the second question, why do you put daffodils like the stars in the Milky Way, when the stars in the Milky Way are of huge numbers and they are very beautiful and bring awe and inspiration to the person who sees them. So when he saw the daffodils, who are probably in huge numbers, like you just mentioned, so that is also something beautiful to him. So he compared two pictures.
You are right. Thanks.
Yeah.
And the final question, how he is affected by the experience of seeing the daffodils, يعني how the daffodils affect in himself, and what is the poet's attitude toward nature, memory, and loneliness. Can anyone answer? No?
Yes, so the first question, how is he affected? When we lost the stanza, we can see that he is in a state of tranquility. When he says that in fact, they flash upon the inward eye, and he has some kind of a secondary imagination. He recalled what he saw, and he's now in a state of tranquility. So I guess that made him feel at peace.
Yes, you
and
are right.
relaxing. His attitude towards nature. Romantics in general appreciate nature, and they appreciate the beauty of nature, and his description of the daffodils,
Daffodils,
and
yes.
when he compared them to the stars in the Milky Way, shows that he really loved the scene, and he
Yes.
appreciates the beauty of these daffodils.
Thanks a lot.
I want to talk about the relation to the real world. This poem can relate to most of us in many ways. This poem is about how man is very lonely, but when he sees daffodils, or just the thoughts of daffodils makes him.
Who chose to be lonely? Is he feeling lonely, or he went for a walk because he wanted to be alone? We explained this last time.
لا,
Although he's using the word lonely, but he doesn't mean
He
lonely.
doesn't mean
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
he is the one who chose to go
To go
out and walk over the hills.
yeah, but
There's a sense of lonesomeness, not loneliness.
Yes, you are right.
Yeah, all right.
this can relate to most of us because there is one thing in the world that makes us happy for whatever reason. We could be having a terrible day, but that one thing seems to change everything, and it calms us down. Also, almost everyone has felt lonely at some point in their life, and we have realized that there is something in our lives which can cheer us up.
Okay, thanks for listening, and that's for the day.
Well, all right. Let's skip it because I would like to add to what you have already explained. Thank you very much. Very good job. All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm going to add, right, actually, to show what is really romantic about the poem. In other words, according to Romanticism, not according to any other school, right? It seems that, right, while the presenters were working on the daffodils, the only thing that they cared about to find a source, and the source was not looking at the poem from a romantic point of view, right? Their source is actually analyzing from a different perspective. Well, we will start with the title, which is The Daffodils, right? Right. If we want to talk about the poetic experience, we have two stories. One story says that the poem was originally written by Dorothy herself, his sister. The one who saw the daffodils, it was, right, Dorothy, not William Wordsworth. Right, and she wrote about it in her own diaries. She wrote about the poem in her own diaries, right? And he read the diaries and he imagined himself that he was there, right? And he wrote the whole thing. Another, right, a story which is actually not confirmed, right, that he was walking with Dorothy over the hills, right, having a walk. What I care about in the title, that it is about flowers. Is that correct? which is a simple element that, right, the previous writers, they never wrote about it, right? They never wrote about it, right? Which it reflects one important romantic principle, which is that they are inspired by the elemental simplicities of life, that they are being moved by little things, right? A walk over the hills, right? A bunch of flowers, right? Do you remember that? So the title is very simple. The topic is very simple. The subject matter reflects the elemental simplicities of life. And moreover, from the stories around the poem, whether it is his own he actually so lived the experience or did not live the experience. If it was really Dorothy's, it means that the experience is imagined, it is not real. And in this case, we call it a primary imagination, because the speaker, or William Wordsworth himself, never lived the experience. On the other hand, right, he imagined the experience. And as we know that to the Romantics, it is not necessary for the poetic experience to be true. Right? Well, so we have a primary imagination, and this is confirmed in all the diaries that, right, the historical, right, stories related to Dorothy and William Wordsworth, that it was originally witnessed by Dorothy, and he read her, from her diaries, her poem, and he made a little bit, right, corrections and the changes, and then published this poem. Right, and we start with the word I, which reflects what? The subjectivity, right? That the poet or the speaker, right, is talking about himself, right? Although we know that he did not witness the daffodils, in order to emphasize to us not only subjectivity, but also what? The primary imagination. As if he wants to tell you, I am the one who saw the daffodils, right? Not anyone else. Wandered lonely as a cloud, right? Wandering, lonely, right? Who is the one who went out to wander lonely, right? It was his own choice, right? So although we have a word which is lonely, it doesn't mean that he is living a state of loneliness. On the contrary, right, he is having a feeling of solitude and lonesomeness, right? Solitude and lonesomeness, right? And he is walking over the hills. Yes, you wanted to say something, Lama?
Yes, another thing that says how he went outside to just seek solitude. Wander means to walk around without purpose.
Yeah, without a purpose.
Exactly.
Without a purpose.
Just to walk and just to
Exactly, right? لو قتل صبر شو اسمه ايش بيقولوا القتل على المقتول لا مات لحاله, right? So he is going over the hills without a purpose, just to enjoy the state of lonesomeness, right? Well, as a cloud, this is the first simile. Yes, sister. Yeah, good. It is a natural element. We understand that, but why cloud in particular? Right? Because of the usage lonely, right? What is the similarity between him and the cloud, right? Which is the word that both of them are, right? We are not talking about the clouds of winter. We are talking about the clouds of what? Of spring or summer. Spring and summer, right? And therefore, it is just a white cloud. And moreover, right, the cloud is wandering lonely in the sky, freedom, right? So he is feeling as free as a cloud. Moreover, the white color, which reflects a state of innocence and purity, vacant and pensive mood, فاضي خالص ما عنديش حقد على الناس بالمرة, right? This is what he said at the end, right? And therefore, he is comparing himself to another natural element because he feels the similarity, the unity between him and any other element of nature. Right? Sorry?
This is the unity with nature.
Good. Right? So you can find in every line, right, most of the romantic elements that floats on high over valleys and hills. This is how he feels, right? The same freedom which of the cloud, which is floating over valleys and over the hills, which are common places, not the cities, not over the downtown, not over the city center, no, but where it is what? Over valleys and hills, common places, glorification of the common man and the common place. And the word flows, what does it indicate? It indicates a state of a freedom, going with the wind wherever it takes, and this is what happens to him, that he himself is going wherever, right, the scene is taking him, right, because he wants to enjoy the scene, the state of solitude that he is living for a moment over the valleys and over the hills. Good, right. When all at once I saw a crowd. في صفحة ثانية ولا؟ Right. There is something wrong. Right. Yeah, well. Yes, who would like to say anything about when all at once?
We can say when all at once I saw a crowd. The word "saw" is the power of imagination, and it is the element of the romantic poets or the romantic
Right.
persons.
So we have I saw, it reflects subjectivity, right? And it also that the actual scene, although we know that he did not witness the daffodils, but he is seeing them by his own imagination. But before, we have something related to the definition of the poet, right? When all at once, can you imagine how many, right? They are too many, right? As many as the stars in what? In the sky. This is what he said. But in a glance, in one glance, right? He managed to see them all. But that the poet is of a greater sensibility that enables him to see more than others, to feel more than others, and to express himself properly. So, right, يعني عينه زي عين الصقر دغري, right? All at once, so a crowd, right? A crowd, a big group, a host of golden daffodils, right? Which were the source of inspiration. The source of inspiration. So is inspired by little things, right? Which is a bunch of golden what? Daffodils, right? Well, beside the lake, beneath the trees, look at this, right? Beside the lake, right? Beneath the trees, right? Just imagine that he is floating as a primary imagination, right? Would you see what is beneath the trees? Would you be able to see what is under? All right, الزنانة بتشوفهم مش, right? Do you understand what I mean? But a poet, by his own imagination, he is able to see more than others. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze, they are happy, and he also feels happy, right, for their joy, for the dancing that they are living with the breeze. So, right, beside the lake, trees, dancing, breeze. Yes. Good. That's right.
The harmony between the elements of the music.
Yes, all of them are, right, dancing together in one movement, sharing the moment, the happiness of the moment. Well, continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle in the Milky Way. All right, we start here a secondary imagination. Why? Because he starts comparing two natural images. What do we call this one?
Imagery.
Romantic imagery. We have two pictures. What are these two pictures? Right, yes. No. Right, the picture of the host of daffodils while they are under the trees beside the lake, and they are what? Dancing with the breeze. This is the first picture. And the second picture, right, is the picture of the stars while they are twinkling, while they are, you know, what's the meaning of twinkling, right? They are shining, twinkling, right, in the Milky Way. Do you know the Milky Way? What is the Milky Way? It's our galaxy, right? مش galaxy the chocolate, no, galaxy, the big galaxy, right? ولا حتى الجوالات تبعتكم. So these are two images. What do they share in common? Both pictures. That the number is too many. The number is too many, right? And these are dancing while these are twinkling. These are dancing together, right? And these are twinkling together, right? So both of them, they are compared to each other, right? One natural picture with another natural picture. And what is he focusing right on in his imagery? On the word continuous, right? He starts with continuous. Who is continuous? Both the stars and the daffodils. Continuous as the stars, as the stars. How? They shine and twinkle in the Milky Way, right? And the others, they are dancing in the breeze. Dancing in the breeze, right? The first, what we call it, what? Romantic imagery that reflects a secondary imagination. Yes, sister. Good, yeah. It reflects the harmony, the unity between elements of nature. Then, right, he adds to the similarity in the same picture, right? So he is making this image prolonged. We call it a prolonged imagery. A prolonged imagery. He extends the image. Another point, right, of similarity between the stars which are twinkling and, right, the daffodils which are dancing, that both of them, they are stretching in never-ending line. They are stretching in never-ending line along the margin of the bay. Here the reference is to whom? The daffodils, not the stars. Not the stars, right? The margin of the bay. Do you know what the meaning of the bay? A little gulf. A little gulf, right? So they are stretching because they are too many as, right, the number of the stars twinkling in the sky. Well, 10,000 so I بعاود يرجع كمان مرة له خاطر يحلف يمين. Right, في الأول I so الثانية so I, right? The first one indicated that he is a poet who is able to see more than others. Here, to tell you, yeah, I can see. How can you see 10,000 in a glance? What's the meaning of a glance? Not a look, not a long look, not a gaze, but what? A fast look. A fast look. But because he's a poet, he's not seeing by his own eyes, he's seeing by his own imagination. 10,000 so I. Right? At a glance. And what they are doing? They are tossing their heads in a sprightly dance. Right? Moving their heads. Right? To the right and to the left. In a very light, happy dance. To show that all of them, the 10,000 together, they toss their heads. Once to the right and once to the left. Right? 10,000, they are too many. They are to show that they are sharing the unity and the harmony, and they move in a harmonic movement. In a harmonic movement, right? They are tossing their heads in a sprightly dance. Well, then, what is that? The waves beside them dance. Not only them, but also what? The waves. They started to shake. Do you remember when we talked about, right, the song of the little girl while she is reaping? What did he say? He said, the vale is also profound. Is also profound. Here, who is feeling profound as well? It is the waves. They are feeling happy, exactly like the happiness of the daffodils, and they started to dance together. You can imagine, right, the whole picture, right, you will find that it is making you happy to the extent that you would like to dance with, right, the waves as well as with the daffodils. But they outdid the sparkling waves in glee, right? But they exceeded. Outdid means exceeded. They were better, right, than the waves. They here, it refers to whom? To the daffodils. That the daffodils, they were much better than the sparkling wave, right, in their happiness and in their dance. In their happiness, you know glee. Do you know glee? Right? No. Means that if you don't know this sign, it means that you don't know glee. Well, in happiness and what? In feeling, right? Joy. Feeling joy. Who is better? The daffodils are better than? Right, the waves. Well, I gazed again. I gazed and gazed. Gazing here is the opposite of a glance. It means that I looked and I looked for a long time, but I never thought. But little thought, it means I didn't think. I didn't think. Do you know why?
The magic of the image.
No, because he is a romantic poet. That if he's going to write directly, right, his poem, it is going to be history. He's not supposed to think about what he is feeling right now. He is supposed to go back home and to what? Till he relaxed and uses his own imagination, his inward eye, to use his own inward eye to recollect, all right, how he felt. And this is why he say, I looked and I looked, but I didn't think what is the worth of the show had given to me. What is the worth that the show that has given to me? Happiness, joy? No, I didn't think at all, right? What wealth had the show has brought to me? I didn't think of what kind of feelings this show has brought to me, because I don't want to make it as history, but I have to wait till I come to what? Right? For معناها because. For here it means because. Why? Because I wait till on my couch I lie. Right? على الكنبة تبعتي. Yes.
I'm sorry, but we skipped 2 lines.
Did we?
Yeah.
معناته في النص موجود غلط. Which lines?
A poet could not be but
Yeah, in such a jocund company. I remember that. But where is it? It is not written here, right? In the text, right? So he is giving us identification. This is the first line, right?
Yeah.
Right. He is giving us an identification of the romantic poet. If anyone, right, comes to this scene and doesn't feel that he is happy with this happy surrounding, he is not a poet. The poet is supposed to live harmony and to live the same happiness of the what? Of the daffodils and right. So a poet could not but be gay, to feel happiness in such a jocund company, right? Overjoy in such a company. What is the following line?
In such a joking company.
Yes, in this happy, right, company. What is his happy company that feels him? It is the daffodils, the waves, and the wind, right? Well, that the two sisters skipped these 2 lines because they are not on their flesh, right? Well, so why do I never think, right, of what I have thought of? I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth had the show had brought, because I always, when I sit on my couch, on my sofa, right, and I have vacant, pensive mood, empty state of tranquility, what is going to happen, right? Is going to happen, right? As we said, they flash up on my inward eye. I use my inward eye, my imagination, to recollect. To what? To recollect what I already witnessed, which is the bliss of solitude. And this inward eye, it has, right, can be practiced in the state of solitude. But if we don't have a state of solitude, the inward eye is not going to be worthy, or it doesn't work well, right? In other words, we can use our imagination, our own meditation while we are far away, right, in a pensive and vacant mood. It is exactly like the Oriental mysticism. The Oriental, which is going far away from the people to live the state of vacancy, the state of a pensive mood, in order to what? To use your inward eye. Inward eye. With this inward eye can only be found in the bliss of solitude, right? If there is no solitude, there is no imagination. There is no imagination. Right. لسه في كمان سطرين غيبات. Right? مظبوط? And then my heart with the pleasure fills. And therefore, after I remember them, what's going to happen? They are going to fill my heart with the pleasure. This is a secondary imagination, because already he did not see them. Now, they are going, every time I remember them, they will fill my heart with what? With happiness. And then what is going to happen? I will come to complete harmony, and it dances with the daffodils. So my heart starts what? Dancing with the daffodils, with the breeze, and with the twinkling stars. Right? Come to a complete unity. To come to a complete unity by dancing with the stars. Well, we don't have anything supernatural element here, because we said that William Wordsworth is the father of natural poetry, but the supernatural element, right, they are for Samuel Coleridge. In other words, what I'm saying, that this poem, right, it has all the features of Romanticism as a whole, even the definition of the poet, right? A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company, right? If anyone who calls himself a poet and comes to this scene and doesn't feel happy, he is not a poet. He's not a poet. And also including the definition of the poetry itself, right? The definition of poetry as recollected in tranquility, right? And overflow of feelings that makes him dance with the daffodils. We are going to stop here, inshallah, and next time we will start with a new theory, which is the reader's response. The reader's response theory, inshallah.